Hello, my name is Kira, and I'm going to be going over Chapter 17, Program Design and for Resistance Training. What I'm going to be going over is the basic steps, in depth on a few of them, and I'm going to be talking about specifically a specific athlete and how she would be trained. Who we'll be talking about is nobody real, no one in specific, but a female, 20 years old. She's a collegiate basketball player. She plays center, so the very tall one who's always jumping and running back and forth between trying to defend their goal. And they're in their preseason, so the beginning of the season, just barely reaching it. What we're going to be looking into is the steps of how to create a workout program for her and how to best work her out to be beneficial for her sport and specifically her position. So for step one of designing a program, you're going to see what needs analysis. So you're going to do movement analysis, physiological analysis, and injury analysis. So movement analysis is what movements and what muscles are they using a lot. Physiological analysis is seeing if they need strength, do they need power, do they need hypertrophy, all the different ways to work out to either increase muscle size, muscle endurance, or muscle strength, or power, those quick movements. And for injury analysis, it's seeing what movements within the sport or lifting specifically create injuries, or what injuries occur the most, and how to avoid those, what muscles to strengthen to avoid those injuries. In step two, we're also going to be taking into account their training background, and we're going to be doing exercise selection. So exercise selection is we're going to be choosing exercises that are beneficial to them. So because they're in preseason, we're doing sport-specific movement, so movements that will specifically help them. So for her, it might be a bit of jumping or pushing, since that's what they're going to be doing a lot. And they would focus primarily on ball dribbling and passing and core development. So those types of exercises that are going to really help with that would be things like things that would help with those would be closed bicep curls, bench press, dumbbell bench press, triceps push downs, the reverse curl or hammer curl. All of those are going to help with movements in basketball, so ball dribbling and passing. For specifically basketball, because they're going to be doing a lot of running, jumping, ball handling, shooting, blocking, and rebounding specifically for her, she has a lot of major muscles involved, but especially the hips, thighs, and shoulders. Those are going to be the main things she's going to be using a lot throughout the game. So those are the things that would be targeted within our program. Because she has regular resistance training, we don't have to worry about her being untrained or not knowing as many of the exercises. So luckily, her type of training can have a lot more sets, she can carry more weight, and she may need less rest because of that. But rest also attributes to volume, and I'll talk about that later. So she's going to specifically work strength and power, and she's going to go for core workouts, so power ones, and then she's going to go for other and assistance, and she's going to go for then core area, primarily at the end. So she's going to be doing things like hang cleans, snatch and clean. She's going to be doing push press, front squat, incline bench press. She's going to be doing pull-ups, so those backs and shoulders. And for her core or assistance, she's going to be doing abdominal crunches, seated rows, stiff leg deadlift, and standing calf raise. All of those are going to be put into her design program. Because she is collegiate, it's easily assumed, and she can be tested, that she is an advanced lifter in workouts. So she will be able to train 4 to 7 times per week, and this also depends on what they're primarily attacking. But if it's 4 or anywhere to 7, so every day. So step 3 of designing is training frequency. Like I said, they can work out anywhere from 4 to 7 days because she is advanced. She's not going to have to worry about a lot of that soreness. She's going to be sore, but she's not going to have to worry about it as much as, say, a beginner. But because she is in her preseason recommends, advanced beginner or otherwise, that they work out 3 to 4 times, because they're not just going to be doing weight room specific workouts, they're going to be doing sport specific skills. So actual basketball practice maybe a couple times a week, and on top of that 3 to 4 times add in a weightlifting, cardio, whatever workout is being designed for her. And right now we're doing a lot of strength and power because we're trying to build that muscle up before she gets into the actual season. So now we're going to go in order. Like I was saying, you're generally going to go in your power, other core, and then assistance exercises. So that's going to be your power. For her, it's going to be her jerks, her cleans, and for her other core, it's going to be those front squats. It's going to be the curls, anything that makes her engage her core. So anything that makes her engage her core. She's going to be doing front squats, incline bench press, seated rows, dumbbell alternating curl, triceps push down, and abdominal crunches. That is going to be her last one. That's going to be her core. So all the rest of those are her others, and then she attacks her core. So it goes power, other, core. Now specifically about how much she should be lifting. Lifting your training load, so step 5, your training load and repetitions. Assessing how many of those you're going to do. You can assess those by finding out your 1 repetition maximum. 1 repetition maximum is when you gradually build up. So to test for your 1 repetition maximum, you would begin with a warm-up and lifting a lighter weight, and you would lift 3 to 5 of those, and you would increase every time you successfully did it. Now you would have about 2 minutes in between each, that way your muscles recover, but you're going to be lifting until you reach the point where you can only do 1 rep successfully. Not partially, but successfully reach. If you go over and you still can't do it successfully, you can decrease and try again. So work backwards instead. Once you reach your 1 RM, it's easier from there to be able to say my 75% maximum effort would be 75% of my 1 repetition maximum. And depending on how much of your percent maximum you're using, you can say how many repetitions you're going to be doing from that. And that will be your maximum effort. There's also 10 repetition maximum, 15 repetition maximum. There's any sort of number, there's a repetition maximum. And since she is doing strength and power, that is what she's going to be aiming for. She's going to get that training load up, and get her repetitions are going to be lower. So when you're doing such heavy lifting for strength and power, you want your repetitions to be low. So she's going to do at most anywhere from 2, not a great number, but she can do 2, all the way up to, say, 4. So because she is going to be lifting so much for strength and power, strength is those controlled movements with a lot of weight. In power, you can still weight it, and you're trying to get that explosive movement. That way, when you're unweighted, you really have that push and drive. For strength, you would use a little bit under 85% of your repetition maximum for your 1 RM, and you would do anywhere from 6 to less reps. For power, you would use around 80 to 90 of your repetition maximum, and you would do only 1 or 2 reps. Or you could use 75 to 85% of your repetition maximum, and you would do more, so 3 or 5 repetitions, somewhere in there. Because we're working power and strength for her, we would do 75 to 85% for the power, and she's going to do 3 to 5 repetitions specifically for her, because we're trying to build that not just heavy power, we're trying to also build how many times can you do in a row? Because basketball is a lot of jumping and moving and quick movements, especially for a center who's having to block so many people back to back. Her other and core exercises are going to be that 85% for her strength, and she's going to do at most 6 repetitions. This is when we're trying to increase those muscles' strength and size to really give her that power when she needs it. So when she starts doing, say, her squats, she's going to really focus on strengthening those legs. That way when she's running, she has a lot of strength and power behind her. So step 6 of creating a program design is going to be volume. Now, volume is the total amount of weight lifted in a training session. Volume can be mathematically found by multiplying the number of repetitions you did by the number of sets you did, if you did more than one, by the weight lifted in those repetitions. So what you can do, let's say you lifted 15 pounds 4 times for 3 sets, you would get 12, so 12 total reps between those 3 sets, and you would multiply it by that 15, and that's your total volume, okay? So for her, it's going to be a high volume. So because it's strength and power, she's going to do less repetitions, but she's also going to do, depending on it, she's going to do, for strength, 6 or less repetitions. She's going to do anywhere from 2 to 6 sets. For power, because she's only doing 1 or 2 repetitions, or 3 to 5, we found she's doing 3 to 5, so she's going to do 3 to 5 sets, somewhere in there. She's going to be doing these to really make sure that she can, over time, increase her weight, increase her power, and increase her strength. So for more specifics, when she does her power exercises, she's going to do 4 sets of 5 repetitions. When she does her other core exercises, she's going to do 3 sets of 6 repetitions. And when she does her assistance exercises, she's going to do 2 sets of 10 repetitions. So specifically for her power exercises, it's going to be her hang cleans and her push jerks. For her other core exercises, it's going to be her front squat, incline bench press. And for her assistance exercises, it's going to be her seated row, her alternating curl, her triceps push down, and then specifically for the abdominal crunch, it's going to be 3 sets of 20, because that one is more of a muscle endurance. So we're having to do more sets, high repetition, less rest. And we'll get into rest in a second. So step 7, rest. How much rest should she be getting in between all of these exercises? So it changes depending on what they're doing. Like I said, she's doing strength, she's doing power, and she's doing muscle endurance. Specifically muscle endurance for the core, she's doing strength for those cleans and those jerks, and for the rest of them, she's doing power. So for her strength exercises, she was going to do anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes of rest. This is because you're using a lot of those muscle fibers and you're pushing them to their limits. You want more rest to be able to recover. Many think that this is too much rest. It's not. Your muscles need to recover and be able to go back into place before you can begin pushing and ripping and tearing at them again. They need that rest. So for power, you're also going to do 2 to 5 minutes. This is because besides power being also a strength exercise based one, it's also a cardiovascular one. So it's going to get you out of breath. It's going to get you tired a lot. You're going to feel the fatigue, and you want to be able to still get that good push. So if she's doing those front squats, she wants to be able to really push up with some power and with some force. So she's going to have that 2 to 5 minutes in between to be able to rest. You calculate whether you want the 2 or 5 or anywhere to 5 minutes, depending on how much you're lifting, the amount of reps you're doing, and your rest can increase with those. Or if you're more advanced and you also want to push your cardiovascular, you can have less rest, but you're not going to see as much of that power and strength increase. The more rest you take between that 2 to 5 minutes, it's been proven in experiments that taking the right amount of rest, so 2 minutes and up, can help increase power. 1 minute will not. So specifically for her, she's going to have in those power and strength exercises, she's going to have 3 minutes. And for her, and when we start getting into more of the endurance ones, she's going, like the abdominal crunch, she's only going to get 20 seconds. So for muscle endurance, you usually get 30 seconds or less, and it's typically less because you want to push those muscles quickly, give them a short rest, and then quickly use them again for high repetitions. That way the muscles get used to being used in a constant manner at a set effort for that period of time, especially in basketball, because she's going to be jumping, running, pushing the ball, raising her hands up. She's going to need her core to help stabilize her and push her further. So she's going to need a very much long endurance ability within that core muscle. So specifically for her, everything we've gone over, her workouts for a female 20 years old collegiate basketball player who is in her preseason, she and is an advanced lifter. She is going to be doing hang cleans for 4 to 5 reps. She's going to be doing push jerks, also 4 sets of 5 reps. She's going to do incline bench press for 3 sets of 6. She's going to do seated row for 2 sets of 10. She's going to do dumbbell alternating curl for 2 sets of 10. And she's going to be doing abdominal crunches for 3 sets of 20. So for her, that is her optimal workout. Now, depending on the day, she is going to lift correctly. So let's say on Monday, she's going to lift heavy. On Wednesday, she's going to lift light. And on Friday, she is going to lift medium. So she gets a day in between rest. That is also important. Resting properly in between lifting, you want to give yourself a day to recover because she is working full body every day, she needs that recovery period so her muscles aren't already in fatigue and trying to be pushed again. They'll never build strength. So for her, heavy on Monday, light on Wednesday, medium on Friday. And that is going to be her optimal workout to develop her strength and her power in her preseason.